But I was wondering if I look at your, well, you've just released a monumental album, 23 tracks.
Yeah.
Your first album was in 2012. But for me, I think you were 32 when you released your first album, right?
Probably more like 30, 31, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Was it relatively late for you, or I mean, for the business, or was it still okay?
You trying to call me old right now? I will come through this screen right now. I'm teasing.
No, no,
Uh,
no, no.
no, that's fairly common in the business. Yeah. I had been a songwriter from around 26 to 29, writing for a pub company and writing for other artists. And then I signed my record deal around 29, 30 years old or so. And yeah, I mean, it might have been 32. I don't remember. It was early 30s, 31, 32, something like that.
What was it like writing those first years writing for other people? Was it different than, for example, than how you write now?
Yeah, it was different in a sense of, you would get a pitch sheet. Um, Kenny Chesney's looking for a song about this. So and so's looking for this. And I can still do that. If you told me, write a song called The Golden Earring, whatever's behind you right there, I could go in an hour, I could come back with a song called The Golden Earring, and it would be catchy and a bop or whatever, but I might not be connected to it personally. So I think that's the big difference now is, I know how to write. I know how to do the craft of it, but I don't like to, I write every single morning, but I might only write a quarter of a song, a half a song. I train that muscle every day to stay sharp, but I don't really finish unless it's moving me personally. So I work at the craft every day, but yeah, the way I write now is just more, it's just got to make sense for me.
Can you tell when is a song when does a song move you? How can you? Yeah, I know. But can you? I don't know. Is it something that you can work to, or is it just every time it's a coincidence, or is it no? Well, maybe if this happens or that happens.
I mean, I think it's just a matter of being disciplined and diligent with what you do. Like I said before, you work and you just train yourself to kind of know how to do it. And for me, it's just, there's definitely been times where I didn't think I was connected to something, and then I had to live with it for a minute, and then all of a sudden I was. So I don't just throw it away immediately if I don't. But there's been songs throughout my career that I write and then I become reconnected with. But there's songs like Solitary Tracks you know, from the jump. I wrote that chorus first before I wrote the verses. And
Mhm.
I knew right away that it was such a personal thing for me. And it was everything that I wanted to say. And I loved the feeling of that chorus that whatever emotion that evoked in me, I was immediately locked in.
Can you pin what started the song for you?
Just looking for something I ain't never gonna find. Hell bent stubborn, but I'll probably die trying. It was that feeling because that's how I feel. I feel that every day of my life. I've been a searcher my whole adult life for what I don't even know half the time. I'm just always looking, I'm searching for these things to fill my soul up. So I think that's why I experience big, heavy flows of joy and sadness and dark. And I'm constantly fighting those elements, within. So the internal crisis within. So um, yeah,
Have you always felt this way?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I felt that I was a deep thinker as a kid. Um, I was always processing the world around me, every situation pretty heavily. I felt everything big and small from an early age.
And did music, writing music, singing songs, did it help?
I didn't start writing until I moved to college. Um, I was always obsessed with music and I was obsessed with the songwriting component of music. Um, I was quietly, I was, I looked up to both my brothers so much and they were always playing music and my dad was always playing music in the house and my mom was a piano player. And, um, so music was a part of my upbringing, but I was quietly, my household was a very intimidating household. Um, so a lot of the stuff that I had internally, I didn't share with my family members, with my brothers, but I knew that I was always secretly obsessed with songwriting, where I felt like maybe they were just listening to the music and the feeling, but I was paying attention to the lyrical craft of what Jackson Brown was saying when I was 10, but had yet to live any life to understand what he was saying. But I was paying attention to how it was put together. And so I feel like once I learned to accompany myself on the guitar, lyrics and melody kind of was a natural flowing thing for me. I just had to learn to really train myself in the craft of it.
But did it help, like you were saying, you're a deep thinker,
Yeah.
high, highs, deep lows. Once you started writing, were the valleys and the highs, were they, well, more, less deep or less high?
No, I'm still a basket case today. I'm still a train wreck of a human. No, I still feel everything
Okay,
the
that's
same.
good. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you were saying intimidating household. Maybe it's a common phrase in the US. I don't know, but once you said it, what do you mean by that? An intimidating household? Was it because you had big brothers or?
It just wasn't we weren't an expressive household of feelings. And our way to kind of communicate was make everything a joke. So, and then it was a pretty talented household. So it was very easily, it was a very easy place to be ridiculed if you didn't do something good. So I had this secret desire. My oldest brother was already a good guitar player. He started really young. And it was just kind of an intimidation thing of not wanting to suck around them because you just would have gotten lit up for it. So um, I didn't get my first guitar till my freshman year of college. I got an old beat up pawn shop guitar. And then I was just obsessed with it. And I just quietly learned how to do it without really talking about it with anybody. And it's a thing. I notice it with myself now. I've got so many people that are close to me in my life that talk about how my inability to ever celebrate anything. And I think sometimes that was maybe the upbringing. I'm not sure. But I keep everything really insular. And so I kind of experience this journey as an isolated journey in a way.
What was the first time that you wrote a song that you presented to your brother? And when did you get?
Um, yeah, I don't really share music with my brothers.
No, not even now.
Nah,
No.
no, love them to death. It's just not something that yeah, it's just not something that I do. Mm.
Well, I was thinking once you got the confidence and once you have a record deal, once you have released several albums, maybe you get the
Family
confidence. Yeah,
family dynamic is a powerful thing.
yeah.
And I think there's some things that no matter how confident you get in certain things in life, there's a certain feeling maybe um, around certain people sometimes that just never, maybe you never learn how to navigate certain things. I'm not sure, it's something that I still, you know, um, yeah, you're getting into a whole deeper bag right here that I've never
Okay,
talked.
well, if you don't want to talk about it,
Well,
then
it's something I've never discussed in interviews.
okay.
But it's and I think maybe maybe there's an element of um, I looked up to those to my two older brothers so much my entire childhood, and I don't know what kind of psychological thing that does, to um, but I was that way with kind of every aspect of my life. Um, you get around certain people, and you just, it's almost kind of like you're a little bit of a different human, and maybe you lock up a little bit, and there's a certain side of yourself that you don't express. You know, um, yeah, I mean that's yeah,
Do you express it side in music? Do you?
yeah. I think for sure. I think I'm way more open in my life. I'm a pretty insular person. Um, I'm very to myself in whatever you call real life, but in music, when you really listen to solitary tracks, at least the first 13 songs, um, I'm way more open with me and pulling back the curtain. You
Let's
know,
discuss then the track Solitary Tracks. What started that song? I mean, lyric wise, what is the story that?
yeah, I literally wrote that. I started with the chorus, just looking for something ain't never gonna find, you know, hell bent stubborn, you'll probably die trying. And I think that's just me trying to say sometimes stuff just falls out and I'm not even sure at the moment, but it's, when I think about it now, it's just more of, I feel like I've been a searcher my whole adult life, and I'm searching for these things to feel these pieces of my soul because my soul's been on fire since I've been a kid. Um, and I think that there's just that element of I'm always looking for these things and I'm not even sure what that is. And that's what started the song. And then I wrote backwards from there.
Yeah, because sometimes people say it's not about the destination; it's about the trip. You know,
Yeah.
that's. But if you say you're a searcher, um, sometimes you have to know what you're searching for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that.
Yeah. And I don't even know half the time, to be honest. Not half the time. I don't ever know really, to be honest. But I know that I'm a searcher and I know that I'm searching for these, these things in life that make me feel whole. Uh, and I feel like I've got it barely in my grasp for a minute, and it fades, um and I've always been a believer at the core of me. I am a spiritual person that believes wholeheartedly, and um none of this seems coincidental to me. It's too harmonious. um
You mean nature and
I
the
mean
also,
everything. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean everything. It just feels for me personally, um and that's something I never shove down anybody's throat. But for me, I just, what I look around and feel is so obvious to me. And so I think that there's pieces of me as well that, trying to make sure that with my short allotted time here that I'm, I'm doing that time justice,
Yeah.
you know?
What is the song on this album that comes close in writing or explaining or the search that you have? The 23 songs.
Livin Side.
You see, I wrote them down. Yeah.
Yeah, live inside tonight. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think about, you know, when you're living for the quench of the itch of your every desire, you can't feel the heat on your feet, but you're standing in the fire. Like a river running wild, and every mile is slowly pulling you under till you're clinging to a tree in the lightning and the thunder. Um, Shit, man, that sums up how I feel every day of my life. So just a very honest lyric of, yeah, what I feel.
Let's rewind to 2012 and then compare it to now, this lyric. Could you have written this lyric 13 years ago?
No.
No. Yeah.
I mean, I think I could have, but I think that, you know, I felt a lot of the same feelings that I feel now. I'm just a little more in tune with those feelings, and I've had more time to process those feelings.
Yeah.
So, and I think that just comes with a little bit of age and experience and learning who you are. And I've spent so much time just I've spent a lot of time in solitude, which I don't think a lot of people do. That it's allowed me to kind of navigate myself in a sense. And, you know, yeah, I mean, I think that I was capable, but sometimes you gotta kind of, you have to really, you also have to be willing to really, not just pass by the mirror, but you got to really look at the mirror, and you have to be honest with that mirror, and sometimes you're not ready to be.
Yeah. 23 songs on one album, and then, well, let's go back to the current time frame with Spotify and everything. What is it, a statement for you? 22 tracks on one album, and
It wasn't something I set out to do on purpose. It was going to end at Southern Sun, so it was just going to be a 13-song record. But when I got finished, my team would say, "Well, you still got 4 months before you have to turn this in because it's not coming out till February, regardless." And so that goes back to me saying I write every single day of my life, so it wasn't like that was going to change. And I felt like I had said what I wanted to say on that first half of the record. And so then it was like I felt my writing changing a little bit after the record that I thought was done. And then it went to like Alley Cat, it went to Love and War. It just started to take on a different eclectic feel that wasn't necessarily a message, but just a different uplifting piece of music. Only Me, which was my favorite on that second track, that one and Forever's Alive. So I just felt like this was the time to do that. I felt like, this was, if, I don't think I'm going to ever do that again, make a record that big. I don't ever want to do that again. But yeah, I just think it's something that just kind of, I was going to a new record label and I was just like, this is the time to do this.
and can you say that after the first 30 songs, that maybe the mood of the songs,
Yeah,
is because the first 30 songs were ready? Can you say that maybe you can sense for yourself in the songwriting that it changed a little bit
yeah,
with the yeah.
absolutely. I had changed. A lot of times like writing something like Live Inside, um, I just think about writing those songs on that first side. Rivers Don't Run. It's like a purging. And then you release that thing. And then it was like, I was just in a different headspace. And
Yeah.
I've been writing a whole new record that I'm pretty much finished with now. And my headspace has been very different for that record than it was for this record.
One of the last questions. Well, we discussed being a searcher. With every song that you write, what does it do in the search? Does it help you, or do you still start on the same?
Puts me right back at the starting line.
Yeah. No.
I think, I'm dead serious. I'm dead
Yeah.
serious. Um,
I was thinking it might help you. I thought
yeah,
maybe
no, for sure. Like,
writing and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it for sure helps me process what I'm thinking, and it definitely I feel helps me in the moment. Um, but I do think that I am who I am. And when I say that, like I experience lots of joy in my life and lots of happiness. But um, I also feel the dark very prevalent in my life. And it's a heavy pull that at times pulls me all the way down. Um, and I just think that, I just think that's part of my journey. And I've kind of come to accept that a little more, but it doesn't mean that I don't keep searching, and it doesn't mean that I lose any faith. And it doesn't mean it's just, I think it's part of my genetic makeup.
And so maybe writing songs keeps you in balance.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so, for sure. I think without it,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, Thank you for your time.
you bet, buddy.